Hustle. Pray. Eat.
Ready, Mark? Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hustle Pray Eat, the podcast.
Episode 33. It is your beautiful, unseen black co-host, Mark the Bad Guy.
And it's me, Jade, and Miss Teapot, because we spill while the tea is hot. And yes, Mark is behind the camera, but he's on the mic because we are joined by a very, very special guest, Rick Alvarez!
Pretty Ricky.
Hey, Pretty Ricky is what they call me.
Pretty Ricky. And you guys actually at home have actually heard a lot about Rick because we speak about him being part of the Edge church plant. We talk about him being our wonderful sound man for the church. We speak about the fact that he's married to Vanessa Alvarez, who you guys remember from the podcast that we had all about prayer when we was pretty in pink. And also you hear about him because of his wonderful, amazing cooking, which, by the way, he cooked me a steak for my birthday. I'm gonna cry. He cooked me a ribeye steak meal for my birthday, and it was beautiful as always. Rick's cook literally makes me want to cry. So,
Thank you.
But we will get more into that later.
Definitely had a steak from Rick. Would not go back.
Never. Once you go Rick, you never go. I don't know what rhymes.
Yeah. We don't need to rhyme. You know what's up.
Yes, so thank you so much, Rick, for being here today.
My pleasure.
The reason why I did ask you to be here is because it is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day, or belated Father's Day when this comes out, to all the fathers out there. I'd like to say rest in peace to my father who I lost last year. But thankfully I'm surrounded by some wonderful men who play father figures in my life. But we wanted to ask you because you have an amazing testimony when it comes to fatherhood, which we will get into. But first, let us give a little recap on church today.
Yeah, church was super lit. Actually started with Sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Probably,
Well done, Sticks, for stepping up. So Sticks is our drum player.
Yeah, literally probably the most quiet person, like as far as volume goes, but the loudest when it comes to instruments in the Edge.
Yeah.
Yes.
That kid could play drums, and
I would know.
I keep aging him. For some reason, I thought he was 18 like 10 years ago. he seems to like kind of stay around the 18, 19. Like, I don't really know how old he is. But
how old is he? Like 24?
No.
20. That's what I'm saying, man. Like,
same age as Enoch.
He's 20.
Yeah, he's the same grade, same age as Enoch.
He's been
21.
21.
He's about to be 22 in December.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, wow.
He's been driving for 10 years. Like, you cannot convince me otherwise.
Possibly.
And he used to roll up to churches, like when we do like services out.
Oh.
He used to pull up in the car, and I'm like, how old is this dude? Like,
oh, wow.
yeah. So shout out to Marvin, man. He kind of set the tone for service.
Yes.
You know, reading some very heavy scriptures.
Yeah.
Also, that was the first time, I want to say, in like a year or two, where I heard about the crucifixion in church. I was talking to Beezy about it.
Other than unlike Easter.
Yeah, they don't really talk about him dying.
Oh, that's
Like,
true.
we never really get to that in expression of love. Like, people don't equate those two. So I thought that was refreshing. I'm like, yo, man, this man's coming with some heavy punches.
Yeah.
Then PE came with the statistics.
Oh.
So
And
I didn't get most of it. I mean, I have my reasons why I thought, you know, but could you share the statistics? I'm not like...
I'll share one that really stood out to me because if you know PE, you know he's a statistics lover, so he gave a lot of statistics. But the one that really shook me, and I thought, wow, we really need fathers, is he said that when a woman gives her life to Christ, there is a 17% chance that her family will follow behind and also become Christians. But when a man dedicates his life to Christ, there is a 93% chance that the family will follow. That is huge. And the reason he was sharing that was, and that's in America at least. I think it was an American statistic, but
I'm sure it works other places too.
I'm sure it's not much different. Especially in the UK, I'm sure it's not much different. But he was sharing that to share the importance of fathers and the need of fathers, not only in our homes, because not all of us have fathers now, or at all, but the importance of father figures. Like, it is so important that we have men, because I think it's so important to reiterate that that fact, because we're in a society now where it's like men are so demonized, and we are like, we don't need no man, or you can do this without a man, we're equal to a man now. So it's like, that is like I was saying today to Vanessa, like, isn't it annoying that every Father's Day single moms are brought up? Like, God bless you all, like, it's wonderful, but you're not a father. And this is Father's Day. We can talk about single mothers 364 days of the week, and they have this one day. And I think a lot is taken away from men and taken away from fathers. So I think that statistic really showed the importance, and I think men will always be important. Men will always be needed. Fathers will always be needed and important. And there's so much statistics that show that a lot of the societal problems that we do have always links back to a lack of fathers. Always.
Jail, reading level,
everything,
violence,
drugs, everything.
The level of school completion.
Yeah, exactly. Prison attendance, like, it all boils down to a lack of father figure. The nuclear family is the best model. God designed it. It's what works, but also you have blended families. I think the key is that there's a father figure. And so thank you to all the fathers, and thank you to all of you guys who step in to be a father figure for somebody else. And if you are from a background where you didn't have a father, that's a lot of our stories, that there was no father in the house. But if you are now a man, you have a responsibility to be that to other people in society and around you. You can't blame it on the fact that you've never seen it being done. It's really not an excuse. And from there,
everybody's freestyling too.
Yeah,
like, that's what I learned. That's what I learned in fatherhood the last 20 months. Is you're just freestyling. There's books, but they're sharp too.
Yeah. It's true. So going from there, I think it's a perfect time to really get into your story, Mick, because you are very unique. And one of the reasons that people may not have a father in their home is because of teen pregnancies. So, father gets somebody pregnant as a teenager, and then they just carry on with their life pretty much. That was your story. You became a father at what age?
15.
You were 15 years old.
Yes.
And you didn't run.
No, I did not. I embraced. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life, that journey into fatherhood, hearing about the pregnancy, and then where you went from there at 15 years old?
I mean, as we know, statistics tell us that the mind of a teenager is undeveloped and all over the place. To the moment I got the news, I was just all types of emotions: anger, frustration, fear, just everything, just kind of all at once, simply because of primarily one, because I'm the oldest of my siblings.
Okay.
And so it was, I let myself down, really. And then as I sorted through that, I realized I let my siblings down. Because from a very young age, I was told that I need to be the example for my siblings. So I did the best I could. But so it was all types of emotions. And when I started to come around to the idea of, okay, I'm going to be a dad, there was absolutely, undoubtedly no other choice than to do everything in my power at 15 to be there for my son.
Wow. And that included you actually leaving your family
Yes.
and moving out of state.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Where were you coming from?
Well, I use a line that Vanessa likes to use often when she shares our story, which isn't something that I think about often because it was just something that I had to do. And she says that I don't know very many 15-year-old boys who would get on a bus, leave their family behind, leave everything they've known, and go across the country, 1,200 miles on a bus, on a Greyhound bus, to be there for his son.
Let's just say that. No, it's true. It wasn't. You have some grown men that have kids that live in the same neighborhood as them and haven't seen them for the past 10 years.
Right.
So you as a fifth. That's why I thought this was so important, because you were 15 years old. You came to Michigan.
Yeah.
And decided to raise your child with Vanessa.
Yeah.
Wait, y'all stop was Michigan from Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in I was born and raised in South Texas. I'm a border city kid.
Hey.
And I had never traveled. I had never even seen the entire state of Texas, much less anything outside of it. Yeah. And Texas is huge.
So the first time you left was when you left.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was the emotion there? Were you feeling fear, or was it just you were driven by doing the right thing?
I don't know if it was necessarily the right thing, but I was driven primarily because of the absence of my father.
Okay.
That was my next question.
And that was my motivation. Even when I said that statement, I don't know, many 15-year-olds will get on a bus and go across the country. Like, to me, it doesn't. I don't remember that. I don't, like, I remember doing it, but I don't remember thinking about that. It was just something for me that I had to do. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't, this is the next challenge. And I think my biggest motivation was the pain and the hurt of the absence of my dad. And he lived close, and I had a relationship with him, but he wasn't around. You know, my mom and my dad never married, but you know, even despite that, being a dad now, it's a choice. You know, and for me, it wasn't a choice. For me, it was just something I had to do, simply because I didn't want my son to experience the hurt and pain, and the absence of not having a dad around.
So talking of the absence of your father, so what did you lean on for an example of how to be a father, especially at such a young age? Like, where did that come from?
I think, if I remember correctly, it had a lot to do with my grandfather.
Okay.
My mom, because she had us, you know, shortly after high school, she had like a year or two gap before she went on to college. But she graduated when I was 10 years old. And so because she was working and going to school, we spent a lot of time at my grandparents' home. And that was like our second house.
Amen.
So I love, my grandma and grandpa raised me and my brother for, you know, a period of time. And he was the only one around. You know, as and some uncles, but primarily my grandfather. And who taught me a lot about life, and taught me a lot about who molded really and shaped me into the person I am today. So
question, were they believers?
No. No.
So, like,
I grew up Catholic.
Catholic.
Yep. Okay. So believing in God, you know, but very much no, not believers.
So 15 years old, you're now in Michigan. And then let's skip forward a few years, because I know that you guys were very young when you bought your first house.
Yes.
You would have been 20?
I was 19.
So you bought your first house at 19 years old. So, we are Hustle Pray Eat. So talk to me about the hustle that involved as a 15 years old.
Yeah, hold on. I need to take notes.
So what did the hustle look like for you? So 15, what did you do when you got here? And then those years leading up to buying a house at 19.
Yeah, I mean, when I got here, primarily was just to continue to go to school.
Mm-hmm. So you were still in high school?
Yeah, still in high school. I just finished freshman year of high school.
Okay.
So I had 3 years left.
Mm-hmm.
And focus on school, obviously getting a job. I need some money to get some income and provide whatever.
Mm-hmm. What was that first job? Do you remember?
Yes. Very clearly, actually. First job was I was still 15. It was my first summer job. I was a bagger. That was my official title.
Oh, in like
so
a
I bagged
supermarket.
groceries
Okay.
at a grocery store. It's a corner store. It's in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It was exactly. Would you like paper or plastic today?
Oh.
Which to me was very foreign, because where I'm from, you just get plastic.
Okay, yeah.
You get what I get.
You get exactly. You get what I give you exactly. So it was very much a culture shock, really.
Okay.
Primarily, everything moving up here was a culture shock, from the scenery to the people to the culture.
That's what I always say to people, like that America is so different wherever you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was a bagger, and then as I started to get comfortable in my job, then they started putting more responsibilities on me naturally.
That's right.
And
I hear it.
I hear
it.
So then I was the bottle clerk attendant, so I would empty out the bottle return machine.
Mm-hmm.
Then I became then I would help stock the shelves, and then I was a cart attendant, so I'd go get all the carts. And this was a smaller grocery store, so you kind of gravitate to whatever is needed, but it was definitely just rolling with the punches, a lot of that. And then even more, then at the end of the night, you had to go clean the meat department. You had to go clean all the machines, the floors, all that stuff. Yep. And then I had to sweep and mop the entire store.
Okay.
So that was kind of my first job. And the guy who used to do our floors, can't remember his name, but it was interesting. It was shortly, I don't know how it was only for the summer, but it was only a short time after he would start asking when I would be working or when I would be closing. Because I was 15, I could only work so many hours.
Okay.
But I remember this too. Minimum wage when I first started working was $5.15 an hour.
Oh wow.
With
I
no
got
gray
bit.
hair. Wait, how do you do it?
And
go
I
ahead.
got
Talk to me.
I got plenty of gray hair. But I got hired in at $5.25 an hour.
Wow.
So, but this guy who used to do our floors, he would always ask when I would be closing, and word got back to me, and I was like, why? Why does it matter? And I was told that he liked how I swept and mopped the floor because it made him easier to wax the floors.
Aww.
So I was like, I guess I never really thought about that. I was just doing my job.
Yeah. See, people, do your jobs properly. It makes life easier for everybody else to do theirs.
I would love to give that advice to everybody, but like knowing Rick, it's crazy. I feel like I'm hearing all this in reverse. Like I know your character. Now I'm starting to see where it shows up. Like at 15, my sister's 20 now. She can't mop a floor.
Oh.
You cannot get her. You can't get her to do nothing.
Oh, man.
But like to think as a 15-year-old from the border of Texas to the middle of Michigan.
Yep.
It's totally different looking people.
Yeah.
Probably new language.
Oh yeah.
Slang that you never heard of. And
very much so.
Middle of Michigan, this is probably racist. Like you probably dealt with so much, but then for you to complete a job, to hold down a job, at 15 is one thing.
Yeah.
But
With a child at home.
with a child,
Yeah. I used to get to work, it was like a 5-mile drive.
this guy.
So I would either ride my bike or I would ride the dirt bike that we had to
Oh.
work.
Yeah, man.
But as because Michigan, Central Michigan, even late May, early June, it's still
Snow.
no, not snow, but you have cool nights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so like I'd be on the bike freezing sometimes because I wasn't used to the weather either.
Oh yeah.
Because I came from
Ah,
110
that's
degrees.
crazy.
110 degree days, which
Wow.
was nothing. It was like, oh, just
40.
another day. Yeah.
40.
65. It's like, and then the air is so different.
Mhm.
There's so much moisture up here. There's so much humidity. Where I'm from is just dry. It's just I like to describe it as it's just a blow dryer when the wind blows. You know, you think
I was thinking that the other
you
day.
think
It's like,
you think like Michigan, you get in the car and you roll the windows down on a nice day and you get the cool breeze.
Mhm.
No, not where I'm from. As you roll the windows down, roll them back up because you
It's-
get nothing.
Nah, man. Hey, just that dedication though.
Mhm.
Like there's people that lack it, and you're saying, yo, this is what I have to do.
Mhm.
But yes, you
Yeah.
have to do it, but you didn't. You didn't.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people run.
Yeah.
That is an option for people. So man, I commend you.
Can I also, like, while we're there talking about like doing jobs and doing them well,
Mhm.
it's like it's not just because you have a child,
Right.
I think as Christians it's important that we do our jobs well, because everything that we do should be in worship to the Lord. So when you are given a job, given a responsibility, see it as worship. And that's what's always kept me in jobs.
Mhm.
Like when I used to work in the Jamaican grocery store, sometimes it was just really quiet all day long, but I used to use that time as well to maybe read my word or do something like that. But I always treated jobs with grace. So when somebody gives you a job and gives you a responsibility, do it well, not just for their sake, but for the sake of worship unto God. So going forward, so at 19, how I don't even know how to ask the question. Like, how do you buy a
4
house
years
at
later,
19?
yeah.
Hey, no. How do you buy a house?
How do you buy a house?
I got different questions. I'm starting to realize this is for me right now.
Yeah, we signed for our house, I think 3 weeks before I turned 20.
Wow.
And it was crazy. It was surreal. And I think, and this is back in, to give people a frame of mind. This was back in 06, 05, 06. And people, it was 05 actually.
So the Spurs was going crazy.
Oh yeah, Spurs were going crazy, absolutely. But there was unbeknownst to me, there was a lot of what they call predatory lending, and so we that's another conversation, but we're subject to that unbeknownst to us. But primarily, we were looking to we were in our second apartment, and our first apartment. Let me just say, because this leads up to the house. Our first apartment was subsidized housing. I was still in high school. I was 18.
I think in the UK we'd call that council housing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Subsidized housing, Section 8. Where you had.
I'm trying to get on the list myself, y'all.
Housing assistance or rental assistance or something like that, and so we were there a year, then moved to our second apartment, which is night and day, and we were paying rent for that though.
Night and day.
Man, it was nice. We could not believe how nice it was. But then we were just minding our own business, and we started looking for houses, and we were like, we should look for a house for whatever reason. And to me, it was like, as a man, buying a house determined growing roots, determined staying put, staying somewhere to continue to grow and develop and raise our family. Raising a family is really what I thought about when it came to buying a house. And so from that side, I was like, let's do it. we were scared as heck though. We went, we were really scared. And I think the moment that we sat at the loan officer's office was like, what have we done?
Wow.
Hey, so Rick, okay, that's 19 going on 20. When did you accept Christ as your personal Lord and Savior?
Oh man. It was during that first summer that I was in Michigan. I was here in Michigan.
So
Yeah,
15.
I was 15. Yeah,
who's the pastor?
Nobody actually.
Oh, tell us what's your
Was it
testimony?
Vanessa? Oh, hey, Vanessa's actually in the room.
Yeah,
I don't know
Vanessa's
who said
here.
that.
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard to keep quiet.
Yeah, she's trying to be quiet right now. I'm like, why is she whispering to me?
There's so much to add. There's so much
there is.
layers, man. But
Next time we'll have you both. Yeah. When we get our next we actually have a fourth mic, but we need to hook it up. But when we get another camera,
I literally was like crying just a minute ago from hearing.
You were crying?
Yeah, I was, because it's just amazing.
Yeah, you said 15?
15. Yeah. So when I started dating Vanessa, and I have to go back to kind of tell the story.
Even
when
though you don't like to do that because he likes things to be told in a linear
yes,
order.
yes, which is why I have to go back. So when I started dating Vanessa, one of her dad's requests was that if you're gonna date my daughter, you need to become a Christian. And me being right,
It was literally
me being a male, goal oriented, like, and being an athlete is like, okay, what I gotta do.
So this is when you was 12.
No, this was probably 13-ish.
Okay.
Oh, whoa.
They've been together since they were 12.
I was 11.
Oh,
Yes.
Vanessa was 11.
Yeah.
And Rick was 12 when they got together.
So this was like,
yeah, we need another camera.
so this was like 13-ish. Well, if you're gonna date my daughter, you got to become a Christian. I'm like, okay, so what I got to do? Well, you got to say this prayer and accept Jesus into your heart. I was like,
been there.
And I was like, that's it?
That easy.
Okay. I wanted to date this girl. So I'm like, all right. So I said the prayer and I was like, I didn't feel any different or nothing. And it was kind of weird. Very, well, growing up Catholic, you recite a lot of prayers. And so when I did that, I think there was like a group of people and I was just like, this is weird. Whatever. So that got done. And so we were dating, and then Vanessa started taking me to church. We started going to church together. I'm like, okay. Right. Her being a church girl. And so anyway, I started kind of seeing a different way or to view God or talk to God. Like everything about God was just different. I was just like, this is bizarre because it's unknown to me. And so one of the time, a lot of it was like weird to me, right? Especially the churches she was going to. But but there was this one time we started going consistently to this church back home, back in South Texas. And there's this preacher who started teaching. And I was like, and I noticed that he was reading from the Bible. And I was like, okay. So I look around and there's a Bible in the pew in front of me. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna, I thought, play along, right? So I pick up the Bible, start reading along with him. And I'm like, and I feel like I'm in 2021, what I was doing was called fact checking back then. I was like, I'm gonna see what this guy's about. And so he was teaching the Word of God word for word, and I was like, that was refreshing to me. So I can look back now and say that God started planting the seeds then about what he was going to do. And so after that night, I was like, this is going to be good. But I felt like it was also my responsibility to figure out who this God was now. Because
you said 13? This is you at
this
13?
This was 12, 13, yeah.
Oh. Rick has always been Rick.
Yo, hey, I was trying to break into people's houses at 12.
Was you?
Yeah, I'm trying to do all this stupid stuff. This man trying to figure out God at 12.
Well, because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, though. That's simply because my mom at a very young age ingrained in me how important school was.
Yeah.
And so I dedicated myself to school, committed myself to studies. And so I was very book smart growing up. And so I took that same approach with God and the Bible. And so it wasn't until that first summer that I had moved completely away from my family, completely away from my friends, away from my surroundings, and I was alone. And when I moved up here, I had no intentions or expectations of what my relationship with Vanessa was going to be. It was simply, the move was simply on the premise of being there for my son. And I told her that. And her and I started to have tension and arguments, and things were not going well in our relationship. And because I lived up by Big Rapids, just south of Big Rapids, we were in the country. And I would go on these long walks when things would go crazy. And it was in those long walks that, on one of these occasions, that I broke down. And I was weeping and crying. And I was like, God, what am I doing here? I can't provide for my own family by myself. I don't know if the mother of my son truly loves me. I can't talk to anybody. I can't call back home and tell my mom because she'll come on a flight and pick me up. So I had nobody. And I can't talk to her mom, and so I really was and I believe it was orchestrated by the Lord for me to cry out to the Lord in one of these walks. And it was simple. It was, God, I believe you are real, and what I've learned so far about you is real. And I said, if you will, and you hear these stories all the time, but I sincerely meant what I said. I said, God, if you help me become the dad that I need to be for my son, and help me be there for my son, that I will follow you the rest of my days. And that's when shortly thereafter, there was that summer that I should say, through my words, I dedicated myself to the Lord. My actions didn't immediately follow. It was that ensuing January, after a bunch of other stuff happened, that I publicly declared my life to the Lord, and this was at a church. But there was an altar call, and I really felt compelled to go to the altar and just really officially, I guess, dedicate myself to the Lord. And it was shortly thereafter I got baptized and realized, the commitment that the Lord was just asking of me, and how I couldn't live life without a relationship with God. So that was kind of the long story, but I felt it was important to just kind of go back and share what led to that. But yeah, it started young. God started whispering in my ear young.
Now, I was trying to figure out how you go from 15, kind of, your girl's pregnant, I'm gonna move up to Michigan, which is, I don't know why people move to Michigan.
Wow.
I want to know about your first winter, but that's probably a different podcast.
I loved it.
Oh my goodness.
I think you need to go out.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, how do you go, from my girl's pregnant to we're about to buy a house? Like, that's a big step. Like, I'm married.
It is.
And I'm like, man, this whole house thing sounds way too big. So we're over our heads with this one. But to have that confidence, I want to know, where was Christ at? Where were you at with Christ in that situation?
Yeah, really. just like anybody, I was, for example, my job at the grocery store. I was learning how to do stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't show up knowing how to stock shelves. I didn't show up knowing how to bag groceries. It was something that I had to learn as I went. It's the same thing with life. You have to, adapt where you need to and adjust where you can, and at times roll with the punches.
I got so many sound bites. Thank you. I keep speaking. I'm like, yeah, that's going in. That's going in. That's going in.
So when it came to the house, it just, for us, it felt like the next step.
Yeah.
And it was like, once again, I was 15 again. That was the other thing I said to God in that walk. I said, God, I can't do this without you. Here I thought, that was my mindset. I'm going to move to Michigan. I'm going to provide for my son. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to finish high school. I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da-da. A month in, I'm like, here I am, God.
Been there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I can do this. No. So it was the same thing. I'm like, God, I can't do this without you. That's what his acknowledgement of that I can't, my need for him. Yeah. And it's the same thing in buying a house. I was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what we're doing. We took
classes, education.
We did take class. I forgot about that. Thank you for that reminder. But yeah, it was certainly, just, a part lack of faith and a part lack of life experience as well. Because sometimes you got to bump your head, and learn.
And can I just say about, like, you guys buying a house, you can really see through your life how you really had a grace when it comes to houses. And there's a reason for that, because you guys really use your home for ministry. Yeah. And I think we're going to have a podcast specifically talking about that, like the way you guys have really, through COVID, you kept the church alive.
Yeah, I think y'all should just take the cameras and stuff over to the house.
No, yeah.
Even at 19 and 20, we had teenagers living with us. We were taking care of them.
You had teenagers living with you at 19.
We've always had people.
We've always had other younger people living with us.
Yeah.
Joker right now.
He doesn't live with us per se.
But and we made our garage into a safe place for teenagers. And we had teenagers live with us.
Primarily my brother-in-law's friends.
That's awesome. So let's fast forward a bit because so you're not a conventional father because you became a teen father.
Yep.
But you also are an adoptive father.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I don't want to say your kid's name. I don't know if y'all are comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The 40 people, the 60 people watching, if they know your kid's name. But,
so, Kesia, who is also, by the way, shout out if you do let her watch this. She is a huge part of Hustle Pay as well.
She is.
She does... She does our tagging, our folding. She was a huge help this week for me to get the what we're going to talk to you about later. So Kesia, and she also does lights and sound and all the
graphics,
tech stuff.
Tech stuff.
And she's how old? 13 now.
13, yeah.
She just turned 13, but she's been doing it since she was
probably 7 or 8.
Yeah, here at the Edge. So tell us a bit about the story. So Kesia is actually the biological niece of Vanessa, your wife. Mm-hmm. And you both decided to adopt her. Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah.
At how old?
How old we were?
Yeah.
Shortly after we planted the Edge. So.
Hey, we not even there yet.
No.
Yo, listen.
No, but so Vanessa and Rick are one of the families that helped plant the Edge, so we definitely have to get them back to speak about that specifically.
Man. That's our third church. The Edge is our third church.
Yeah, the Edge is the third church they planted. And you planted this when you guys were like 22?
24 and 23.
Yeah, so that was a third church, so think about all the experience there. So Kesia, so you was 24?
I was probably 25, 26, yeah.
Okay. I cannot imagine adopting anybody at this age. So what was... Why?
22. You're 27 now.
Can you be quiet?
No. So she was born in 07.
Yeah.
We planned the Edge in 09. And then it was like that same year or two later. So it was like 2-ish years. So 11. So 26.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, that was another, to me, another God moment where it was like, okay, God, we see a need, and I think part of it is ingrained in me as being Hispanic, coming from the culture that I was raised in. We take care of our own, and to me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted more kids, and Vanessa was not ready for more kids. And what better way to what am I thinking of? How more
it's some compromise, like, oh,
how more selfless could you be than to take in another child?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Than to be arrogant enough to say, well, I'm gonna have my own first, when there's a child already in need.
Wow. So okay, so we spoke about the hustle being a part of having to, as a teen dad.
Yep.
So I'm sure prayer and seeking the Lord played a huge part in becoming an adoptive father.
Yes.
So so tell me about that. So what was God saying to you in that moment, other than what you just said?
Man,
do it. Do it.
Man.
And was Vanessa on the same page, or?
There was definitely some friction and some tension between us.
Okay.
About it. But to me, it was, as I mentioned, I was motivated a lot by the pain and the hurt of the absence of my father. And up to now, with Kesia, I had experienced my Heavenly Father.
Ooh.
And so because I had experienced His love, His grace, His mercy, all the beautiful things He offers, the amazing Father that He is, it was at that time that I wanted to continue to express myself as a father to not just my son, but to a potential daughter. And that's how I've loved her from day one that we've had her. I've loved her as my own. So that was what God was sharing with me. How can I keep God's love to myself? How can you? You can't. And to me, what better way of expressing that love than to another child who you have the opportunity and the blessing to raise as your own? And so
you had a question about.
Yeah, no. So I don't want to sound like divisive at all, but like the contrast of being a teen father, getting to know who God is, then being a adopted father, fully knowing God's love. I mean, you kind of brushed on but now teenagers, as they're growing, like I'm still, Maverick's still one. I have no, scope of, how to do any of this. But, as you see it going forward, like, grace and love is different. I don't know if you show, not favoritism, that sounds terrible, but is it different from a young boy, young girl? How are you seeing it? Because you're not my peer, but we're close.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Similar cartoons.
Is that how you judge it?
Yo, we had long conversations about this. Like, Captain Planet,
Right. Yeah. Definitely different. God showed me even more through raising Kesia than he continued. I should say he continued to reveal His love to me, because with my son, it was like immediate. The correlation that I had been, I wouldn't say missing, but directly missing from my life of a father-son relationship was revealed through my son. And I was just like, this is how God views me. This is how God sees me. And the love and affection that I feel for my son, even now is like, this is how much more does God the Father feel that way towards us? How much more? Yeah, because God, it's magnified with God. Yeah. And so with Kesia, God just kept continuing to reveal his love to me. Here I thought I was going to share God's love with her, and I did, but it also served as God continuing to show me more layers of his love. But it's very much different, obviously, in my life. But raising a girl is just, I grew up,
Yeah.
I with a Nook, even though I was a teen dad, there were a lot of things that were easier. Whereas with the girl, it, at least to me, and not to be derogatory, it just took more time for me. It forced me to slow down in a sense, and really dig deep into just understanding, little girls, daughters, and also just help me understand a little bit of my wife as well. So yeah, very, very, very different, two different times in my life. 11 years apart, 10 years apart. So
And
the elbow will be your granddaughter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like fast forwarding even more, you're even more unconventional because you are a grandfather at 36 years old.
Yes,
so that is unconventional. So yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah, pops. Like, so.
Well.
I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Mamma mia.
Please don't cancel me.
Yeah.
But like, so we always talk about the love of the father or whatever. Is it different as a grandparent?
Very much.
I cannot imagine. I'm not there yet. I'm not close.
Yeah. Once again, to me, it's just been another layer of experience God's love.
Wow.
Scripture talks about, how the a man's grandchildren are the crown jewel.
I didn't read that part. I'm sorry.
So just once again, just continuing to experience God's love in a new way. It's like, wow, my granddaughter is not mine, but I'm still have this draw and this pull. And it's love. It's the love of the Father in me. And it's just
grandfather.
Yeah, and it's just the legacy too. Just like, wow, this is. It's hard to even now. It's because I'm still, learning it and just understanding it, but very much experiencing another layer of God's love. It's just been profound to me. I didn't know I could experience that level of love.
Yeah, that's interesting because it makes me think of all the layers of love I've still got left to learn about God. Yeah. Because I know that, like, when I lost my dad, that's when I started seeing God as God the Father. Like, before I knew that was a fact, but I didn't feel it until I lost my dad. Because when I first lost my dad, it was like I felt abandoned. Like, I actually went through a stage of being like almost scared to go outside because I was used to, like, if I'm out, I can call my dad at any time and he'll be there. Do you know what I mean? And then I felt like I'm abandoned. Like, who's going to provide? Because I'm not married. Who's going to provide? Who's going to protect? Who's going to be that for me now? Yeah. And it had to be God. I had to lean on God. So I learned that layer of love. So I'm excited to be married and then see another layer and then children and then so that makes it like, oh yeah, there's so much more of God's love that I'm yet to experience.
Yeah. So, huge blessing to be a grandfather. I forgot what I was gonna. No, it had to do with what you shared. For me, because not having a dad around only taught me what I don't want to be or how I don't want to be. That now learning about God, I wanted to learn what I needed to be or what I wanted to be. And so it was so my relationship with God the Father was very organic. And once again, it was just like, he's a father. And I'll share this story because it was so impactful in my walk with the Lord. I was 17 and I was still grieving not having a dad and understanding this new relationship I had with God the Father. And one of the things I was grieving is all those times as a kid that you wish your mom or your dad were around. And in this instance, my dad. And I was just talking with the Lord in prayer, and I was crying, I was grieving, lamenting all those times I was experiencing that hurt and that pain of all those times my dad said that he would be at my baseball game or at any other sporting event that he said he would go to. And I was just, lifting it up to the Lord and just talking to him about it. And like only the Holy Spirit can do, only God can do, said to me, I sensed him telling me, you're right. He wasn't there. You that hurt and that pain is real. But guess what? Yeah, he told me. I was dumbfounded. I was like, what? I was there. And all those times that I thought, all those times, yeah.
Mark's over here crying.
Yeah. all those times that I thought that my dad wasn't around, God whispered in my ear, I was there. I saw that. And to me, that was just one of the greatest just reassurances and just times of comfort and even more reinforcing of who God the Father is. Because it was only then and only then that I was able to let those things go and heal really from those wounds, because it was life-changing for me. So
amen.
Well, the last one, because we gotta land this plane here pretty soon. The eat portion. Jade kind of talked about it.
You were my first introduction back to red meat after like 10 years.
Yeah, yes. She was on here talking about, I don't do pork.
Another the next week. I was like, Rick's eating steak.
Got grease in her hair still. What are you doing? But like, where did you learn to cook, and where did you learn to cook for a family?
It goes back to my grandfather. It goes back to my abuelo. And it was growing up. We didn't have much. I grew up on rice and beans and tortillas. Yeah. Really.
About to get some today.
And it was, like I said, I grew up with my grandma and grandpa, and I remember looking in the fridge and not seeing empty shelves and seeing the empty refrigerator door, and I'm like, there is nothing to eat. There's some slices of cheese in the deli drawer, maybe some, but not much. And lo and behold, we'd go outside and play, and my grandma or my grandpa would call us in for dinner or lunch or whatever, and there was a full-blown meal on the table. Magic. So my grandpa would make something out of nothing every time.
What about two dumpling?
Yeah, and so to me, that's always in the back of my head. Like, how do you make do with what you have? And it was those memories and when I tell you he made a meal, it was good. It was good. It was good to your soul type food. It wasn't like, oh, this is, just so I can know. When it was ready to eat, I came ready to eat. It wasn't like, I don't want this. It was amazing. And sometimes, and not sometimes, but most of the time, the simplest food for me has the best or the most weight. Meaning that it's sometimes that the simplest things for me are the best. But it's also the simplest things that you eat are the hardest to cook.
And can I say, that's good. Going back to, the word of God being our daily bread. Sometimes it's those simple scriptures that we just skip over, that we don't chew on, that we don't digest, that the most meat is in those simple things. If we take the time to chew on it and digest it, you'll see how.
Yeah. So my grandfather is a huge inspiration for my cooking. And it was only natural. We were in high school. We went to what is it called? At the time, it was called at the Career Line Tech Center. Thank you. Back then, it was called food management, and it was introduction to sanitation and knives and restaurant management and knife skills. So you were learning the super basics, how to handle. I never knew how to handle a chef knife.
Yeah. Now, what you could do with a watermelon is unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because
I'm retired from that, but yes.
I gotta find a picture. I don't know if
I've heard about this watermelon
we had a baby shark thing. So
it was there. It was amazing.
Rick.
Oh wow!
Man,
yeah, I remember.
I'm glad you're not like a gangster.
Whoa.
Because honestly, Rick, you don't just cook. You show love through your food, and anytime I eat, I think that's half of it. Is that I feel like, oh, you really love me, and the way that you cook.
It's cool too to see even Esman when he's cooking in the kitchen. She's just looking at it, and it just to see the legacy continue. It's been pretty awesome.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm so sorry to have to cut the story and the testimony short, but I think we got so much food out of that. No pun intended. But so quickly, we thank you so much, Rick.
Of course.
Thank you so much for sharing, and you definitely will be here again. Mark, show them yourself. Oh, that sounds weird. I meant your face. but
show 'em, Mark.
But yes, thank you so much for your testimony and sharing it, and for just being a part of our lives. We couldn't have really done this without you.
We absolutely could not have done this without you.
Yeah, like the lessons that I've learned just by working alongside you, as I was telling you the other day, it's really a big contribution to this podcast. And also pray you and Vanessa are huge to us as well. So thank you. We do have to quickly tell you guys about some exciting things going on with Hustle, Pray, Eat.
Man, absolutely. We have... No, you should probably share. It's probably best. Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, yeah.
I would love to.
No, Mark, I was going to say it. No, but yes, we actually have a female line now.
It's called Woman's Line.
Woman's Line. Because apparently female is offensive right these days.
Whatever.
I don't know. I can't keep up with you lot. But anyway, so we have a woman's line out now. So we have tank tops. This one is white on white. It was an accident. Yeah. But it turned out nice.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be gray, but ain't none of my business.
No.
I stay out of women's business. It's best for me.
So we have dresses, we have tanks, we have visors. And we're so excited. So they will be exclusively in the Boutique Boulevard. So down at Grand Rapids, in Grand Rapids, Woodland Mall, you can find them there. And also shout out everybody that came out to the pop-up yesterday. We were in 2 separate locations, and you guys went to both and bought from both stores. So that is amazing, and it was amazing to see so many people out already wearing Hustle Pray Eat. That's always amazing. And thanks again, Rick and Vanessa, for stopping by, because your presence is always
we didn't really get to talk about the Edge much. Like, I mean,
that's they'll be back.
Yeah,
they gotta be back.
Yeah, that's when I met y'all, and it was kind of like watching 2 young adults lead, and it was like, oh, I can do this. Kind of feel so. I just wanted to let you know that on the podcast. Like,
such inspiration.
The hardest job in a hip hop church is running sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easily.
You have the hardest job.
You have the hardest job. You have to make a lot of people sound good. And you've done a great job for 11, 12 years straight. Yeah. So, man, we appreciate you.
And also, I want to say congratulations to Steven. His song dropped on Friday as well.
Andale.
Yeah, Andale. So congratulations on that and your new music video. I'll put it at the end of this, and then your EP is out next month, so we're excited for
Wow.
that. So much exciting things happening in and around the edge. So it's a great season for us, and we're going to pray that it continues. So yeah, should we say bye to the people? Thank you guys so much. Goodness.
Anything you gotta say?
Any
just
departing words?
Anything?
No, it was a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me. Always open to chop it up one-on-one.
Just not on camera.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun. And thank you guys. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey, appreciate y'all. This has been Hustle Pray Eat the podcast, episode 33.
Yay!
Wide is the road to destruction. Careful what you lay in your heart. Shorty call, stay away. Bag it up, underlay. She gon' do what Simon say.